Jesse from Virginia noticed in the background on some of my videos that I had motorcycles in the garage. So he asked if I could do some videos about motorcycles. This video is going to be a quick, basic overview for a motorcycle. I'm going to show you on this Kawasaki Ninja 250. The controls will be very similar across all motorcycles, but make sure you know how to use yours before you try to ride. Let's look at the controls from right to left. The right grip is the throttle. You give it gas by rotating your hand this way. This is the kill switch, which if it's there, the engine won't run. It has to be down here to run. So when you're done riding, you flip that switch and that stops the engine. This is the start button. If I turn it on and hit that button now, nothing will happen because the kill switch is on. If I turn the kill switch down, then it will start. The handle grip here is the front brake. If I pull on that, that applies the brake to the front wheel. Moving across, on the left, the first thing we come to is the choke. If the engine is cold and you're trying to start it, you put that down, that chokes the throttle, and it's easier to start. Once it's warm, you would open the choke. This is the high beam versus low beam. This is the signal. If I'm signaling right, I turn it that way. To cancel it, I have to push it to turn it off. And the other direction is the left signal, and same thing, you got to remember to push it off. There's a horn. This is the clutch. That disengages the transmission, so you pull that when you're going to shift. On the right side, by the footrest, there's the rear brake, and that's applied by pushing down with your foot, like that. On the left side, there's a lever similar to the brake one on the right side, but this one is your gear shifter. So when your foot is on the pedal, you shift gears by pulling in the clutch and pushing down to go from neutral to first gear, and then you put your foot underneath it to shift up. On this side, you'll also notice this switch. This is the fuel line switch. This is the on position. If I wanted to shut it off, I'd put it over here. If you run out of gas, motorcycles have a reserve amount of gas, and you turn it up to here, you'll have a little bit more gas to get to a gas station. When you put the key in, there's a lock, there's an off, and there's an on. Notice there's an indicator light that means it's in neutral. So if I pull in the clutch and shift down, that light goes out and I'm in first gear. Usually when I'm starting it, I want it in neutral, so I'll bump it back up to neutral. There's also a place to open the fuel tank using the ignition key, and that's where you would put gas in. Do not ride a motorcycle dressed like this. Instead, dress like this. Before you go for a ride, you got to make sure you've got the right protective equipment. A good helmet that's rated. I like the full face because that gives more protection. Safety gloves. These gloves have padding and hard plastic. If you go down, you don't want to land on your hands. A protective jacket. This jacket has padding in the shoulder, on the elbows, and in the back. That means if you go down, you're not going to be wearing off your skin until after you've gone through some hard plastic first. Full-length denim pants, and I always wear hiking boots or riding boots that cover your ankle. When you've got that stuff on, you're ready to go. You may also want hearing protection for your ears. I like to put my earbuds in so I can listen to my playlist while I'm riding. Bon Jovi, Dead or Alive, is the ultimate tune to listen to while you're riding your motorcycle. We leave the bike parked in the lock position. Lock means that the steering won't turn, and that's a theft prevention mechanism. Push it down to get it to the off. Now it's off, but the wheel will turn. We're going to turn it to on. We store it in first gear. I don't want to start it unless I've got the clutch in, but I'm going to bump it up to neutral. And notice the neutral indicator light comes in. And I did that by bumping the gear shifter up just a half a click. Now I can let go of the clutch. With the switch on run, I can hit the starter and it will start. If the engine's cold, then you would choke the engine before you do the start. That will hold it at higher RPMs without the throttle. Once the RPMs goes higher and you don't need that as much, you can back the choke off. And when the engine is warm, it should idle without any choke. When we're ready to go, we squeeze the clutch and shift it down to first gear. Now when you're starting from stop, you're going to want to let the clutch out slowly, and as it starts to grab the transmission, give it a little gas so that it doesn't kill. So when you're going from stop in first gear to start, let the clutch out slowly. If you're shifting from first gear to second gear to third gear, you can just pull the clutch in, shift gears, let it right back out. Pull it in, let it right back out. When you do pull it in, you want to let off the throttle because otherwise the engine will rev a little bit more. So you let the throttle off, pop it out, give it more throttle. Throttle off, pull it in, let it go. When you're putting gas in your motorcycle, make sure you use ethanol free. In this case, it's available in a premium, and it costs more, but you don't want to use fuel that has ethanol, because that can gum up your fuel system. Let's talk some pros and cons. It is a lot less expensive to ride a motorcycle than to own a car. Riding motorcycles is fun. You have to be careful, and that's some of the cons. It's a lot more dangerous. It doesn't have to be dangerous if you have the proper training, the proper protective gear, and you are a smart rider. There's a YouTube channel I'll recommend. If you search for Dan the Fireman, you will find a guy that is an EMT who watches and critiques motorcycle accidents on YouTube. If you take a class, you will be much safer than if you just try to go out on your own and figure it out. This motorcycle doesn't have a fuel gauge, so when we fill up, we reset the odometer, and that's how we know what range we can expect before we're going to run out of gas. If you're getting value from this video, then make sure you give it a like. Well, there you have it, stepsons. And Jesse, that's a quick overview of the basics of a motorcycle. If you decide to get a motorcycle, please make sure that you're careful. The last thing your parents or your friends or your stepdad want to hear is that you got in a motorcycle accident. Remember, this channel is geared for young men growing up without a dad. If that's you, then I hope you'll subscribe. If you're considering getting a motorcycle, then make sure you watch this video of my son and me buying this specific bike. Always remember, you can still succeed even if your dad's not in your daily life. And you do have a dad that loves you. And I'll see you on the next video.